Everyone. Hey everyone, my lovely library community. I'm Tara Cox. I'm at the National Girls Collaborative Project and SciStarter, and I'm the director of the Citizen and Community Science Library Network. And so we're here to tell you all about citizen science, the eclipse, Citizen Science Month. We have lots of things to share with you. You probably have heard a lot of these things already, but we're going to keep sharing them over and over until you use them. So welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. So let's go ahead and dive into that icebreaker. So we're going to be talking all about the eclipses today. And so here is an icebreaker we've actually been using. You can also feel free to steal this and use this as an icebreaker at any of your events because it's a really fun one, just to get folks thinking about the sun and how they're feeling today. So what solar feature do you feel like today? Feel free to go ahead and put your answers in the chat. Make sure you change the two in the chat window from hosts and panelists to everyone. It's set to hosts and panelists by default. And if you change it to everyone will be able to see your answers. So are you feeling like a sunspot? Are you relatively cool, calm, and collected, but also embracing change and transition? Are you a solar prominence? Are you showy and bright while also feeling grounded and connected? Are you a coronal mass ejection, powerful and influential and ready to mess things up? Or are you the sun's corona? Are you feeling gassy and sassy, but you won't let anyone's shadow dim your light? Ginny asks, do you have a collapsing planet choice? Which I love that. We got a lot of solar prominences, a few coronal mass ejections that I'm seeing. I'm definitely feeling coronal mass ejection today. We've got a lot of really cool resources to share about the eclipse and citizen science. I really think that it's going to help influence y'all in a positive way about your eclipse programming and your participation in community science with your communities. We got some more sunspots coming in, coronal mass ejections, and a few people jumping on the collapsing planet bandwagon, which I like. I hope that y'all don't go full Krypton, or at least get a Superman out of the deal if your planet does collapse. Be sure to send that cradle off to Earth to a yellow sun. Excellent. All right. Well, thanks so much for sharing that. Oh, we got a Corona question mark. I like that. Keeping things open. Um, um, Carrie said a black hole. I love that. Y'all are getting creative. This is fantastic. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, everybody. Not a lot of corona, not a ton of coronas. So I guess everybody took their Beano today and is not feeling gassy and sassy. So um, excellent. Claire did share out in the chat that if you're not familiar with the sun's corona, it is the atmosphere of the sun, which is visible to the naked eye during a total eclipse, which is true. Um, Excellent. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to share a few of the Eclipse resources that StarNet has been making available through a project called the Solar Activities for Libraries project, funded by the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation. We spent the last year preparing for both. If you are in the western part of the country, you might have noticed there was an annular total eclipse in October. And we're following that up. Because we planned it, obviously, we did the scheduling. We scheduled that total eclipse for April. So there is going to be another total eclipse at the beginning of April, which we are very excited about, and we're going to be sharing some resources out for you. So to help get libraries ready for the solar eclipse, we've been doing a series of virtual trainings and webinars, just like the one we're doing today. And we have recordings of all of those on our YouTube channel. If you check that out, we have tons of different topics. We have actually a 4-part series if you want to dive in more on citizen science, including an intro to citizen science with our friends at SciStarter, a whole webinar about eclipse programming ideas around citizen science, and webinars with our friends at NASA's Globe Observer and the Eclipse Soundscapes Project, both of which you'll be hearing about a little later in this webinar. We also have webinars about preparing for Eclipse Day, talks with Eclipse books and authors, a whole webinar that's just about librarians sharing their own ideas about programming and what they're doing for the Eclipse, and many more. We're also doing in-person training workshops. We've done almost every state that we could to provide working with state library associations to get those to get some in-person trainings in every state, and we have a few upcoming. We have Illinois, Nevada, and Virginia both happening in the next month before the total eclipse. So if you're in one of those states, reach out to your state library and they will hopefully be able to connect you with information on how to get in on one of those in-person trainings. We also, if you are joining us from the Pacific, there is also going to be an annular total eclipse visible later on this year in Hawaii and American Samoa. And so we are going to be doing in-person trainings there if you happen to be one of our wonderful librarians located in the Pacific. So we're going to be having those coming up. So look for, if you're in Hawaii and American Samoa, Piala will have information about those upcoming workshops. We also have really fantastic ways to get connected. I'm actually going to be putting the link bank for this webinar right into the chat right now. If you feel free to bookmark this, any links we're going to be talking about and all the resources we're going to be talking about in today's webinar are available in that link bank. So you won't need to take screenshots or try and Google afterwards. All of the links we're going to be talking about are right there. And one of those links is a link to the SEAL group on the StarNet community site. The StarNet community site is kind of a social media site we've set up for any of the librarians in our StarNet library network. And we have specific project-focused groups on there. The SEAL group is all about Eclipse resources. You have to register for the community and request to join, but all requests are approved once you do. Just because we are releasing some personal contact information for both librarians and for subject matter experts. So we're just keeping that a little bit secure by making that a private group. But once you request to join, you'll be able to talk with other librarians that are planning for the eclipse on there. The site looks a lot like Facebook. In fact, I have been affectionately calling it Spacebook for our librarians. But it provides great opportunities to connect with other librarians, share resources, get resources from other librarians, as well as connect with scientists, subject matter expert volunteers for both in-person and virtual programming. So if you're looking to have some programming around the eclipse, that's a great way you can get some vetted and trained subject matter experts to come and talk to your community. It's also a great way to keep up with the SEAL project and StarNet. Once you get registered there, you'll have access to our SEAL newsletter as well as our StarNet newsletter. And you'll be kept abreast with all the things going on for libraries at StarNet. We are also, as part of the SEAL project, circulating solar science circulation kits to state libraries throughout the country. Every state library is handling circulation a little different. So if you're interested in checking one of those out, contact your state library and they can tell you how they're handling circulation. But we have two different kits, one for multi-generational learners and one for younger learners that has telescopes, books, hands-on activities, science explainers, all sorts of really fun stuff. And those are circulated items that are meant to be circulated to individual libraries for programming. So contact your state library if you're interested in finding out more about those. We're also providing tons of programming resources. If you're not familiar with the StarNet STEM Activity Clearinghouse, it's the repository of over 500 hands-on STEM activities that are designed and vetted for informal learning settings. And we have a whole collection just about solar and eclipse science activities. And that link is also in that link bank that I sent out in the chat. We have tons of resources on the StarNet YouTube channel, including those webinar recordings for the SEAL project for the last year that I was talking about earlier. We have a really fun Eclipse and Sun music playlist. If you're planning some Eclipse Day programming that you can play on a loop, it's got songs like Walking on the Sun and Total Eclipse of the Heart. So a good, fun themed Eclipse playlist there. We also, if you are relatively new to STEM facilitation at your library, we have a really great playlist of STEAM strategies videos from the NASA at My Library project that go into concepts like how to be a good guide on the side, how to address space and earth science confusion, how to do virtual programming, tons of really cool stuff there. Also on the StarNet community site, we have a series of blog posts, including ones from us here at StarNet and from guest librarians and Eclipse authors. So we have things like all of the hands-on activities and resources we've made for the SEAL project. We have had translated into Spanish. So if you are in a heavy Spanish speaking area, we have bilingual and Spanish language resources available. A whole list of resources that we're calling our Getting Started with SEAL blog post that is got things like about citizen science, explainers that are meant for you, the librarians, about solar and eclipse science, ways to get connected with things like the Night Sky Network, and solar system ambassadors, as well as how to get connected with us in the SEAL project. Tons of really, really cool resources there. And blog posts from guest librarians about things like explaining eclipses to little kids, and a really cool blog post about making your own eclipse history exhibit. That provides resources for how to use local records or records you might have at your library to examine the history of eclipses specifically in your area, and look for things like news clippings and historical documents about previous eclipses in your area. So really, really ton of cool resources available for you. And like I said, I'm going to put that link bank right in the chat in case anybody has joined us since I first shared it. All of those links are available in that link bank for you to bookmark. So that's some of the Eclipse resources that StarNet has made available. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Tara to start talking, and we're going to dive into citizen science. So take it away, Tara.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm just so impressed with all the resources that you guys have created for the Eclipse or curated. It's from soup to nuts, all audiences, even the music. It makes it really easy to put on an event. And I'm going to be out there in the Austin, San Antonio area supporting some libraries, and I will use all of those things so that it's a really fun time. Yes, so the reason that we brought you all here together is not just for the eclipse. We thought that, so if you're not familiar with citizen science, it's an approach to engaging with scientific research that many libraries are supporting their public to be able to do. And there's a lot of citizen science that is happening during the eclipse. So citizen science is this global movement which entails collaboration with real scientists and real scientific research and the public, anyone from youth to, senior citizens. Anyone can participate in citizen science. Citizen science can look as simple as taking a photo and uploading it into an app like iNaturalist to NASA has some incredible citizen science projects where you can actually go and look at images of space and identify galaxies, or taking water samples or air samples to monitor your local environment, your community. Citizen science, there's something for everybody. It's how people are making an impact about issues they care about. And during the eclipse specifically, there are tons of things that scientists want to know, and they can't be everywhere. And this eclipse is spanning all of North America. And so we want to know, scientists want to know what happens to biodiversity, to our planet when as a total eclipse happens. So we're going to tell you and dive into some specific projects that you can support your public to be able to do. I mentioned that I am from the National Citizen and Community Science Library Network, which is this growing network. If you're already a member, that's wonderful. If not, it's free to sign up. You get a newsletter. We are constantly sharing resources like STAR Net. We also have some funding resources that we get, we curate for folks from different agencies that are looking to increase library engagement in citizen science. So go ahead and sign up. This is a project funded by the Institute for Museum Library Services and the Moore Foundation, and managed by Arizona State University, SciStarter, and the National Girls Collaborative Project. So I'll drop that link in the chat, or Emma or somebody from the team. If Emma's on from SciStarter, you can't see her, she's a little robot up there, so she can drop those links in.
Sarah, those links are also in
Oh, they're in the link bank. Thank you. Duh, we don't need to do that. Thanks so much. Oh, Roland's on too. Hi, Roland. Roland's a SciStarter team member. So why this is also great is because April, which is when the eclipse is happening, is also Citizen Science Month. So this is a month-long celebration of citizen science, really aimed to generate public engagement in citizen science, grow awareness of citizen science, And this year, we're launching this awesome campaign called 1 Million Acts of Science. We're truly aiming to get to 1 million acts collectively across the globe during in April. And we'll tell you a little bit about what those acts entail, but the synergy here between the eclipse and Citizen Science Month and 1 Million Acts of Science, it's there, it's real, and we are so excited to be able to be doing this all together. So what counts as an act of science? You're all, most of you, it's hard to tell exactly who's here, but Roland says, yes, we got to get in this together. I love that emoji, Roland. From libraries. Libraries, we consider you as the most important facilitator organization for citizen science. You know your communities best. You're a trusted resource. You provide you know, everything from books to internet connection. And that is incredibly important to get to 1 million acts of science. And so attending and hosting an event, hosting a citizen science event, hosting an eclipse event counts as an act of science, and we want to know about it. Even, you know, as I mentioned, sharing pictures of nature is an act of science. Using your smartphone to monitor the environment. This image here is of a citizen scientist, a young girl who's measuring light pollution with a light meter, and which is an incredibly important thing if we want to see the stars or if we want to help bird migration. So there's citizen science happening all around us, and libraries are jumping on and becoming community hubs. So we're here to support you to do that. And the 1 Million Acts of Science campaign is our big push in April. So please sign up as a library, as a facilitator organization, so that we can get back to you with a survey at the end of April and ask you to estimate how many acts of science happened at your library. Next slide, please. Oh, there we go. So this is, yes, so how to participate. You can sign up as an individual and as an event, as a host. I am a citizen scientist. All the panelists here are citizen scientists. We contribute in various ways. And so we can sign up as individuals, but also if you're hosting an event, if you are using one of the citizen science projects during the eclipse, like the ones that Claire is going to be telling you about in a minute, all of that counts and we want to know about it. So yeah, I love seeing these libraries in the chat. Yes. Go Beaver Island and San Antonio Library. Awesome, Ashley. I might be reaching out to you. I'm looking for some more libraries in the San Antonio area to come talk to when I'm out there in Texas in April. Okay, so what we're going to talk now about is how to prepare, plan, and participate in Citizen Science Month and in this Citizen Science Eclipse specific programming. But before we get to the actual projects, there are just some simple ways to prepare yourselves and your community for citizen science. And if you go to the next slide, here are some simple ways to do that. We have online tutorials for anybody. Foundations of Citizen Science is an online self-guided tutorial. You can promote it to the public, your library users. It's fully online. You receive a digital badge at the end after completing it. And we actually have a part 2 specifically for libraries, which talks about all of the ways libraries are getting involved in citizen science. We also have monthly webinars like this. Like this one that you're on. Emma does a weekly live webinar diving into specific projects. And then we have tons of guides and turnkey resources. You'll learn about some of them in just a minute. But promotional materials, especially for Citizen Science Month, we have tons of promotional materials for you to just print out and put out at your library. We really try to make things easy. Next slide, please. Oh, here are some of the promotional resources that I was talking about. Just putting out book displays and rack cards about citizen science. And Emma has created some awesome flyers, which you'll see in a little bit, talking specifically about some of the citizen science projects that scientists are interested in the public engaging with before, during, and after the eclipse, really. Next slide, please. Here's the links to those trainings. We actually also have a really good resource, which is this Foundations of Citizen Science slide deck and speaker notes. So if you want to host an introductory event at your library around citizen science, you can download that PowerPoint deck and make it your own. And it really goes into the basics of what is citizen science, why do scientists need the public help to collect data, what is your role as a citizen scientist, and some example projects that people can practice their citizen science skills around, or public engagement in science skills around. Okay, I think I'm passing it off to Claire to talk about some great projects that are happening during the eclipse.
All right, so I'm going to go over two citizen science projects that you can engage your community in. So Dylan, if you go to the next slide, please. All right, so the first is called Eclipse Soundscapes. This is a really great project because there's so many different ways that you can get involved. So essentially, this project is building off of a citizen science project that happened almost 100 years ago. A scientist named Wheeler wanted to know what was happening during a total solar eclipse in 1932. And he was interested in when the shadow of the moon is cast on the earth during a solar eclipse, what happens to the animals? Does their behavior change? If you're on the path of totality, it can get dark enough that you can even see stars in the sky. And so that can prompt a lot of animals to change their behavior. If birds think it's time to go to the nest, even if it's noon, if it gets that dark, we might see birds doing something different, or maybe the crickets start to chirp, or who knows what, so Wheeler really wanted to kind of investigate what was going on and asked folks all over the country to send in their animal observations during that total solar eclipse. So Eclipse Soundscapes is building off of this project, but this time with more advanced technology and using the internet as a way to collect observations from folks around just experiencing the eclipse, whether you're on the path of totality or off the path. So there are 4 different ways you can get involved. The first is just an apprentice. So this is free. This is online on their website. And all it is just learning about solar eclipses. And when you're done with the program, you earn a certificate of completion. So this is a great thing leading up to the eclipse if you want to host a program, and just invite folks into your computer lab if you have that, or if you have tablets, have a program where you don't have to be the expert, but you're getting this knowledge out to your community members. And that can act as one of those million acts of science. The next one is the Observer. This is for the day of an eclipse. Again, this is free, and this is welcome to anyone, whether you're on the path of totality or off. And you can download an observation sheet, hand it out to your community members as you're waiting, for the eclipse to happen, and just have folks write down their observations. Are they noticing the temperature drop? Are they experiencing anything noteworthy that they can observe and write down? And then you can input those observations on the Eclipse Soundscapes website to help scientists understand more what's happening with biodiversity during the eclipse. The data collector role does require a specific audio moth. And you must be on at least 70% of the eclipse path to collect this data and submit it. So I'm not going to go too far into this one. You do have to have the specific audio moth recorder. And what they're asking you to do is just use zip ties and put that audio moth somewhere around the library. It can be in a tree, on a bench, and press play and start recording 3 days before the eclipse, during the eclipse, and after the eclipse. So they're trying to understand what's happening before, during, and after using audio recordings. So they created this as a way to bring in more accessibility into experiencing the eclipse. Like we all know, if you have good vision, and you have nice protective eye gear, eclipse glasses, one of the ways to experience the eclipse is looking at the sun. But this is another way to experience it by really listening to the sounds that are happening. We do have recordings on how to use this if you're interested in that. So I'm not going to go too far into depth in this one, but it is a really unique way to experience and collect data. for the solar eclipse. Now, this last one is coming at the end of 2024. This is after the eclipse has passed, and it's online, it's free. We're looking for data analysts. So all of the sounds we're getting, all of the observations coming in, there's going to be a lot. There's going to be hundreds, maybe thousands of observations coming in. So we're looking for folks to help analyze that data. There will be a tutorial for how to analyze it and a whole protocol that you can be trained on. It's not available yet, but I'm sure we'll be promoting it once it comes out at the end of 2024 to keep this citizen science going for this project. Next slide, please. All right, so we're going to focus on the observer role for this project because this is free, anyone can do it, and it's a great thing to do on the day of the eclipse. So if you've experienced a solar eclipse before, it takes a long time. It can take a few hours, for the moon to actually cover the sun, get to its totality, whatever percentage that is for where you live, and then another couple hours for the moon to keep going. So you might have an event that lasts for a long time. So this is just one activity that you can do to engage folks and start using their observations. It's really meant for all ages, but children 13 and under may need an adult to help submit their data online after they've recorded it on their piece of paper. And as I said, it on or off the path of totality anywhere in North America on April 8th. We're looking for folks to just submit your observations. So to prepare for it, there is a 15 to 30 minute training video that you can learn more about the project protocol, what exactly we're looking for. And then also you'll just need to download the observation worksheet, print it out, and hand it out to the folks at your event. Eclipse glasses are great to have if you have them available because folks can safely look at the sun and record what they're seeing. But that's not necessary. You can also use indirect ways of viewing the solar eclipse like pinhole projectors and continue to write down your observations with that. And on the next slide, SciStarter has put together a recipe card to kind of help you bundle this into a program for your community. So it starts with setting the stage. So it gives facilitator slides if you want to talk about, what the eclipse is, science behind it, what's going on. And then, you'll have to have your participants create an account at SciStarter.org for this to count for that 1,000,000 acts of science. And then also go to the Eclipse Soundscapes page to understand how to submit your observations digitally online. So that could be something you do as a pre-program before the day of the eclipse, get everyone's accounts ready, get them trained up on what they're looking for. And then on the day of the eclipse, that's when you collect your data. So this has some suggestions for performing a practice round with your patrons prior to the optimal eclipse setting. So prior to when it's at its maximum percentage in your area. And, just some reminders, pass out fresh observation data sheets, make sure you have writing utensils, and encourage recording devices. You can use your smartphone to record observations as well, or even make verbal notes of your observations if writing is something that is inaccessible for some folks. All right, and then finally, take action. This is where you'll need to submit your observations to Eclipse Soundscapes so that we have that data. Scientists can look at them, start to analyze them, and notice if any patterns are starting to occur during the solar eclipse. All right, and the second program I'm going to talk about is Globe Eclipse. So Globe Observer is a fantastic tool for doing citizen science. This is what the website looks like when you first go there. And there are several different ways that you can use their app to do things like submitting data about land cover, mosquito habitats, trees. So this is something you can use year round, but they have temporarily put up a new project called Eclipse, Globe Eclipse. So you'd want to click on that eclipse. And on the next page, next slide. We'll talk to you about what Globe is trying to discover or learn more about with this eclipse project. So energy from the sun warms our planet, And changes in sunlight can also cause changes in temperature, clouds, and wind. So this project is trying to learn more about what happens when the sun is blocked by the moon during the eclipse. They're trying to see what is happening with the clouds, what's happening with the Earth's atmosphere when such an event occurs. And you can kind of think about it, like I live in Denver, Colorado, and in the summertime it gets so hot, but we don't have a lot of humidity here. So even just going into the shade of a tree, it can drop, the temperature can drop, and it can feel so much cooler just in the shade of the tree. So you can imagine, what scientists are trying to figure out what happens when the moon's shadow is on the Earth. So what's happening with the temperature? What changes are occurring with the clouds? There is a virtual kit that you can download. So in that link bank, there's linked to sky windows, which can help kids identify different types of clouds. There's a science storybook called Do You Know That Clouds Have Names? This is available in English and Spanish. And this also you can download and print out in a globe eclipse card with a pinhole projector. So again, if you're running low on glasses, which we are at STAR Net, these pinhole projectors can be a great way to still observe what's happening with the solar eclipse. So you can find those resources on the link in the link bank called Tips for Events with Globe Eclipse. And if you want to find versions of those in Spanish and English, check out the link Globe Eclipse Resource Library. And that's where you can find all of these available in multiple languages. So on the next slide, I'm just going to really quickly walk through the 3 steps for collecting data for this project. So first, you'll need to have a smart device and download the Globe Eclipse, just download the Globe Observer app. And once you have that, when you open up your Globe Observer app, you'll see actually 5 now, since the eclipse is added, 5 different projects, and all you do is just click on Eclipse. So next, you're going to enter your settings. So you need to let us know if you're collecting temperature data, which we'd really love. There's a link to the digital thermometer that we recommend in the link bank, but you'll need to add what type of thermometer you're using. You don't have to use the one that we are recommending. You can use any thermometer, which is different than soundscapes. You need to use the specific audio moth for soundscapes. But for this, just enter your type of thermometer, whether you're using Celsius or Fahrenheit. And I recommend turning the measurement alarm on. We are hoping to get data, temperature data and cloud data every about 15 to 20 minutes. So that little alarm will buzz and be like, oh, it's time to take another temperature reading. Number 3, document your site. So it's very easy to use. It walks you through how to do this, but you just need to report the surface conditions of where you're at. If it's icy, if there's any snow, if there's nothing, if it's just grass, or if you're in a forest. And they do ask that you take a picture of the ground with your thermometer in it, so they can kind of double check what type of data you'll be submitting. All right, step 4 is when you just start taking measurements. So you can do this as soon as the moon starts to cover the sun. Remember, you have several hours, so about, this says 5 to 10 minutes. 10 minutes is fine. It just wants you to take an air temperature with whatever thermometer you have, put it in the app, and submit it. They also would love you to take pictures of the clouds. So you can even have different roles. If you have a family sharing a device, maybe one person can be taking the temperature, one person could be taking pictures, and just make this like a really fun way to collect data as a community, as a group. So every 15 to 30 minutes, they would love you to take a picture of the clouds and just submit it. And it's as simple as that. And then finally, what the app is doing is automatically graphing the change over time. So you'll be able to see how the temperature might be dropping, how the clouds might be changing. It'll create a graph for you. And if you want, you can share that graph on social media and get other folks in your community and in your network excited about this data that you're collecting. So it's a lot of fun, and those are the 6 steps for participating in the Globe Observer app.
Claire, there's a really good question in the chat. Stephanie said, I'm not able to, we, in our area, we are concerned that the cell signal will be overwhelmed with the influx of people. Will these apps still work and record?
That is a really great question. I am not sure of the answer to that. Dylan, what do you think? We can also ask our
I'm pretty
partners at
sure
both.
that the app has a separate upload function, so like it
Mm.
should still function. Like even if you have a suite of old iPod touches or something like that and want to use this is the recording thing, the app should still work online. You'll just need to make sure that you go through the app and do a manual upload of the data you record once you have signal or Wi-Fi again. Another thing might be is just make sure that you are sharing your Wi-Fi password if you're doing this like just outside your library and have a Wi-Fi repeater that provides access to your library's Wi-Fi network. Making sure that people can connect their devices to that will also help help mitigate some of that cell traffic issue.
Awesome. Thank you, Dylan. Yeah, that's a great question. I do recommend trying all of these things out before the day of the eclipse. Just practice it, get to know the app. Try one of the other citizen science projects. Like there is a cloud app, a cloud citizen science project through the same app, which is just taking pictures of the clouds. So you can practice that before the day of the eclipse. And here are some other resources. These are in that tips for events with Globe Eclipse link in the link bank that Dylan's been dropping. So if you want to create a little table display, there are Globe Eclipse tabletop signs kind of explaining what this project is trying to learn more about in English and Spanish. There's a Globe Atmosphere one-pager, a how-to guide, that those same screenshots, which I showed before with the 6 steps for collecting the Globe data, is that guide is available, and you can print it out and hand it to the different groups of folks who are collecting data. There's a Globe Eclipse poster. The Globe storybook, do you know that clouds have names? There's also a link to Globe Eclipse graphic assets, which you are free to use and customize and use them in your social media or any type of flyers you're creating for your event. Check out their awesome graphic assets. And then finally, there's a link to NASA's Solar Eclipse map, which is a beautiful poster you can print up and just hang on the wall to get people excited about the eclipse, and it has a little bit of information as well. Awesome. And we do have other projects. I think I'm actually going to turn it over to Emma, since she's here and she created these awesome flyers, to talk a little bit more about the SunSketcher project and the flyers you've created.
Sure, yeah. We have flyers for 4 of the projects too. So if you are looking to see those, I think they're in the link bank somewhere, but it's essentially a Google Drive with these flyers, including SunSketcher, which I'll tell you about in a second, Eclipse Soundscapes, Eclipse, or the Globe Eclipse, and then also Safari, Solar Eclipse Safari, which has a flyer, but it's also on its way today because I need to fix one thing. So once that's up there too, you'll have 4 different projects that you can look at on there. But SunSketcher is it's a very simple project that I recommend, especially if you're in working within bigger groups or a group of people or set into groups, mostly because it uses a phone. And so if you anticipate people using their phone to take pictures during the eclipse, that makes sense. So it'd be like one phone off to the side to actually do this project. It's super easy to do. It's just a download of an app, and you're setting up your phone to look directly at the sun, and it takes the pictures for you once you're in the app and the eclipse has started. So it's a very you don't have to work very hard at anything. It's pretty simple. It does all the work for you. It's all about being able to determine the exact size and shape of the sun so that we can have better answers about relativity. So that one is really great if you're looking for a way you can still enjoy the eclipse and just experience it while the project is just being done on your behalf using your computing power. So that's what that one on the left is for. And then Eclipse Safari, if you see it later, which I highly recommend, is if you are looking at any animals or you're near livestock, especially rural libraries, or if you recommend to your patrons or audience members of any organization that you're a part of, to go and look at their pets during the eclipse or any animals they may see. It's all about documenting changes in wildlife. And so it's similar to Eclipse Soundscapes in that way. It started because they found some very interesting behavior in animals at the zoo in the 2017 eclipse, with giraffes galloping and a bird that made a call that they had never heard before and never heard again, except for during the eclipse. So we're just looking for more ways in which animals just change behavior and do things that we've never seen before. So all of these projects are going to be excellent. So it's kind of a choose your adventure type of moment for you all. Yeah, hope that answers most of it. Oh, I did want to mention though, for anyone who is worried about cell service and anything like that, SunSketcher is a phone app. So as long as it's downloaded ahead of time, it does all the work for you, but it actually downloads within the next 2 weeks after. So you should be golden for cell service. As long as it's downloaded ahead of time, you are good. Eclipse soundscapes, we talked about. Globe, same deal. Although I did mention, I didn't know this, they do have a temperature worksheet where you can write down the temperatures for globe eclipse, which I did not know. So if any of you want to use the worksheet as well, that's also very helpful. And then for Safari, you can print out a worksheet, and it's also a Qualtrics survey is essentially how they're suggesting to send in all the information. So either on a phone, or you can take the worksheet and print it out, and it actually has the QR code for you to just submit pictures of your finished worksheet. So easy peasy, trying to avoid those issues of connectivity. Yeah. Thanks.
Excellent. Thanks, Emma. So now I'm going to talk quickly about some programming ideas. This is going to be a real brief version of this. If you're interested in finding out some more, we have a couple of different webinars all about programming ideas for both citizen science and Eclipse programming in general. That's available on our YouTube page, which the link to which is available in the link bank that I have been repeatedly sharing in the chat and just shared again. So one great programming idea, especially before or after the eclipse, is to host a daytime star party where you make observations of the sun, explore different solar science related activities. There's a step-by-step guide on the StarNet YouTube channel under our Sealed Virtual Trainings playlist. Vicky, yes, the presentation slides are already available in the link bank that I have been sharing out in both PDF and PowerPoint form if you're interested in getting a hold of those. It's a great way, those daytime star parties are a great way to pair citizen science with hands-on activities, crafts, guest speakers if you're interested in getting a subject matter expert to come and speak to you. And it's a really, really fantastic way, especially if you're thinking about maybe doing one of the observer roles for Eclipse Soundscapes or participating in one of the other citizen science projects that are really great to do before or after the eclipse. Links to which I'll be sharing in just a bit. So one thing to keep in mind too is while the total eclipse is really, really, really a huge event and obviously one of the bigger solar science stories for the year, excuse me, NASA is also calling this year the big year of heliophysics. Heliophysics meaning helio coming from the Greek for sun and physics meaning physics. But heliophysics big year. There's a ton of solar science going on outside the eclipse. NASA is starting to get data from the Parker Solar Probe, which is the first spacecraft to ever go through the sun's corona. The sun's corona being that wonderful cloud of ejecta and solar material that's kind of the outermost atmosphere of the sun. And we have sent the Parker Solar Probe, which is the first spacecraft to take direct measurements in the sun's corona. So if you are in the path of totality, or even if you're not in the path of totality, and your community is excited about solar science after the eclipse, there's a ton of great ways to engage your community with citizen science around the sun besides just the eclipse. So you can hold those events. You can hold a preparatory event before the eclipse to prep people about eclipse science, eclipse safety, and do follow-up throughout the year, maybe pairing stuff with summer reading or other different types of science projects. A back-to-school sun observation party would be really, really cool. Really tons of different options you can do around the sun for the rest of the year. All of NASA is going to be releasing heliophysics resources through December 2024, so the end of the year. And the link is there in the slide deck and available in the link bank that I have been sharing out. So really great to take advantage of that. Also, as I mentioned earlier, we do have that STEM Activity Clearinghouse, which has over 500 vetted activities for informal learning environments, many of which have specific library-specific guides and how-tos. And we know that the SEAL collection, the Solar Eclipse Activities for Libraries collection, has all of those library specific resources, as well as Spanish translations, things like we were talking, Claire mentioned earlier, table signs for the Globe Observer. Many of the activities in the SEAL collection have things like facilitation guides for you, as well as table signs for patrons, ways to adapt those activities into either a facilitated activity, a take-home kit, or a virtual program. So there's a ton of different options for filling out some programming around your eclipse day besides just observing the sun. So there are a few specific citizen science projects that are meant to be done during the eclipse. We talked about Globe Observer and Eclipse Soundscapes. There's also iNaturalist, which is another app available through the Android and Apple App Store for making nature observations, is also doing eclipse observations through there. So those are meant specifically during the eclipse. So if you are perhaps like not directly on the path of totality and you're still having an eclipse party, but you're not necessarily going to be needing to actively facilitate or worried about huge crowds for the total eclipse, some of these kind of citizen science projects are really, really good for if you've got the extra time and facilitation. But if you are going to be in the path of totality, like if you're one of our libraries in Texas who's in what we're calling the Square of Awesome, which is the area of overlap between the path of maximum coverage for the eclipse last October, and will also be in the path of totality in April. If you are at one of those libraries or just anywhere on the path of totality and you're expecting a lot of huge crowds and maybe don't have the extra bandwidth in order to do some facilitated programming along with some citizen science, here's a whole list of fantastic citizen science projects that are all available on SciStarter.org/eclipse. SciStarter put together a fantastic Eclipse landing page for all of their Eclipse resources, the link to which is again in this link bank that we've been sharing out. But all of these projects, I'm not going to, we're running a little bit low on time and I want to leave time for a Q&A, so I won't go through every one. But a lot of these are either star observations, things like measuring biodiversity through iNaturalist, things like if you've taken recordings of the eclipse or taken photos, there's going to be an Eclipse Mega Movie Citizens Project to assemble different clips from eclipse observation events all over the country. So check these out. This whole list is going to be in the slide deck, which is available in the link bank as well. So one last plug, we are having a Citizen Science Month webinar after the eclipse. So if you are interested in citizen science, maybe don't have the time to get some citizen science stuff for your community up before the eclipse, there's tons of ways to stay connected with your community doing citizen science throughout the rest of the year and NASA's big year of heliophysics. And we're going to be having mark your calendars, Tuesday, April 17th. We are going to be having a webinar all about citizen science. April is Citizen Science Month. We're going to be talking about citizen science writ large, resources to get you connected, you get your community connected with citizen science. So if you're interested in following that up, especially after the eclipse when everybody will have a little bit more bandwidth, be sure to check out that webinar. The registration link will be available soon on the StarNet webinars page, the link to which is once again in the link bank that we've been sharing out. So I think is that oh, and then I'm handing it back over to Tara now.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everyone one more time that all of this counts as an act of science in April. And so please sign up so that we can make that collective impact of 1 million acts of science. And I think I have one more slide with some other upcoming events. Oh, yes. The other thing is, please add your event to SciStarter. We can help boost and promote events. And also, it's just a way for us to be able to measure collective impact. Even if your event is a closed private event, you can mark that. We just love to see how many events during Citizen Science Month are happening to be able to make that impact. And the last thing is 2 additional webinars coming up. One of them is not a webinar, it's like a drop-in meeting on March 13th. Emma and I will be there. It's for anybody hosting an event during Citizen Science Month. It can be an eclipse event. And if join us, we are there to answer questions, brainstorm with you, send you links that you may have forgotten about. Yeah, and then the second one is with our StarNet team. Community-driven science adventures at your library this summer. It's specifically focused on the summer reading theme, which is adventure at your library and how citizen science can be integrated into this year's summer reading theme. So please join us. It's in collaboration with the Collaborative Summer Learning program. So yeah, I guess Q&A time.
And Tara, I'm so sorry. This is on me. I forgot to update you on when this changed. But next week on Tuesday, March 5th, there's also another webinar that's relevant to all looking at eclipse programming and anything related to April programming in general. So if you want to join us for then, you're welcome to. I dropped the registration link directly in the chat. It's the scistarter.org/go/live. It's our weekly webinar series. Sorry about that.
Yes. We provide so many webinars that we don't expect you to be on all of them, but we try our best to answer all of your questions in various ways. So come join us. We're here to talk, or email us, any of us. This is our mission right now is very focused on April. So if you have any questions about April in any of these areas, we're here to help.
Yeah, and I want to point out there were a couple of questions that came in during the webinar today that I want to start off our Q&A just addressing. Ryan had asked about when the eclipse is happening Central Time. I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the chat to timeanddate.com, which has a specific a find. You can enter in your geographic location, like your exact zip code and address, and find out when the path of totality, when the eclipse will start and end, and when the totality will be, specifically for your particular zip code. It is not happening by time zone because the path of the shadow of the moon being cast on the Earth changes as the sun travels throughout the sky. It is slightly different depending throughout the time zone. So you want to double check your exact location to make sure you plan your events appropriately. That link is in the chat. It is also like many of our Eclipse resources, and in the link bank for the link I've been sharing out today, there's that Getting Started with SEAL blog post, and that has even more resources than we've included in today's link bank, including how to find all the information about what the eclipse looks like in your particular geographical area. There's an eclipse simulator where you can enter in your geographical information and see exactly what the like percentage of the sun will be covered in your area using that geographical information, as well as resources like time and date where you can get that time information. Really, really cool stuff. Highly recommend checking out that Getting Started with SEAL blog post that's in the link bank. We also had a question about the recommended age range for the data analysis portion of the Soundscapes project. Soundscapes is still putting together that that research protocol that we're going to check in with Soundscapes, and we'll be releasing that information in future webinars. Most likely also through the SEAL community on the StarNet community site. We'll go ahead and as soon as we get that information, release that through there. So make sure you get registered for the StarNet community site and request to join the Solar Eclipse group where we can share out that information for you and keep you abreast with that. So we have a question about, will the webinar be recording be able to be watched afterwards? If so, where would we look up to find it so that we can get others with our team caught up with this information? Claire, we are recording this. We're going to be posting this webinar to our YouTube channel. So once again, the link to our YouTube channel, it's at StarNet Libraries. The link to that is also in the link bank I have been sharing out, and I will share out one more time just to be on the safe side. But yeah, subscribe to our YouTube channel and you'll get notified as soon as that recording goes up. So Rhonda, that's where you can find that in the future. I'm looking to see if there's anything else in the chat. Questions? Nope. A lot of thank yous, which you're welcome.
There was a note about a soundscapes training after this event. Do you have the link for that, or registration link? I'm not familiar if there is.
I think it's a recording to the soundscapes, a previous soundscapes webinar.
Oh, that is
Okay.
also the citizen science, the webinar we did with Soundscapes. In the link bank I've been sharing out, there is a playlist of all of our SEAL virtual trainings, including, and on that playlist, you'll see there's a 4-part citizen science series. Look for the one that says Citizen Science with Eclipse Soundscapes. That recording is there from last spring. No,
Thank you
Thomas.
all.
It's
Thank you.
always a good thing to hear that we've done well. We always like to hear that we asked you for an hour and gave you a good, well-packed hour. So that's always nice to hear.
Thank you so much, everyone.
All right, we'll stick around for another couple minutes if anyone has any questions, but that's our content. Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone.
And it does look like there is a soundscapes training. We're not doing that, but Jeff put the link to that in the chat. Sounds like there's another one happening right after this. So maybe I'll go check that out as well. Okay, thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks so much, everyone.